Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us is Stutland, chief investment officer at Equity Armor Investments. We're going to discuss how AI could potentially affect the tech sector. Brian, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks. And before we get into the conversation around AI, certainly a hot topic, NVIDIA earnings. Can't ignore that in the Nasdaq 100, can you?
No, you can. And, it had such a tremendous run up before earnings, then a little bit of a pullback. What we saw happen was basically it made a 50% retracement from its high down to the lows of last year. It came back 50% and then sort of pulled back off of there. It looked like maybe it would struggle a little bit, but certainly the earnings picture and the outlook that they gave here looks tremendous because now it's sort of blown through that 50% retracement. It looks like it's poised to move to the upside like a lot of other semiconductor stocks have done off to the start in 2023.
Right, and let's talk about AI and the impact that it could potentially have to the tech sector. It's so interesting when you hear companies and their executives come on financial media now, you kind of hear this narrative, oh, we've always been involved with AI, now we're just, refreshing and keeping up with how it's evolving. It's almost like attaching blockchain to the end of your name. Remember, that was like, a few years ago. So what are your thoughts around how it's going to impact the tech sector?
Well, I think it could provide a nice boost in terms of growth and opportunity, especially for names like NVIDIA, a lot of other chips in AMAT, AMD. We're going to have to get faster and faster at processing information in order to sort of digest a lot of what artificial intelligence wants to do. And that's going to play really well into the semiconductor index, which we know is such a big part of the Nasdaq. Remember, we just talked about NVIDIA. That's up to a 3% weighting now in the Nasdaq 100. So we've seen the growth and the growth potential moving forward. I think AI is going to have a big impact. That's why I like staying somewhat overweight this chip sector to some degree or other.
And what about Nasdaq 100 Volatility Index, or what we call VolQ? It was interesting this morning. You had pointed out that while the market was down, so was VolQ.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the volatility index actually not really participate to the upside, where there's typically you see this fear factor come in when the market is sold off. After the first couple percent move, yeah, we got a little spike in VolQ, but since then, the last couple percent down really didn't impact people coming in to want to own puts. And typically, when I see that, when the market's sort of like unchanged or down and volatility is down, to me, that says people are selling puts on something like the NASDAQ 100, willing to get long the market at a certain level, take their insurance off, and play back to the upside. And we've seen a pretty nice reversal occur just in the last half hour.
You just read my mind. I'm looking at the ticker right now. I mean, the Nasdaq 100 up, nearly 0.75%, right, compared to where it was from this morning. It seems to be, with the yield at around 3.95, the tech sector seems to be okay with that.
Yeah, what we did see is basically 10-year yields kind of hold in there at that 3.9 level. And actually, they have ticked down. I think maybe that's given some comfort into sort of the growth trade, and the movement into risk on is basically seeing this 10-year sort of hold below this 4% level. I think is very key and important for NASDAQ type names to move higher. And I think once the market sort of digested all the Fed negative talk in terms of wanting them to raise interest rates, which they probably need to do, continue to do, but that sort of put a sort of a top on the 10-year note so far at this 395 level. That's been key to sort of keeping this market hanging in there.
All right, Brian, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.